Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of This Expat Life, the podcast for expats who are looking for more personal growth. And today, as always, I'm super excited for this episode because today I'm talking to a fellow business entrepreneur and friend, Marcel Wijermars. And today we're going to speak about something that is very dear to me, but also to many expats, and that is how to build a community. And Marcel is an entrepreneur who travels around the world, and currently he brings together established entrepreneurs through dinners, exclusive dinners actually, and masterclasses in Amsterdam. And I think not just Amsterdam, but also in other places of the world. So welcome, Marcel, and can you please say something about yourself for our listeners?
Yes, absolutely. It's so nice to be here. Nice that we could make it work to be on this podcast. So yeah, like you actually gave a pretty good summary. I travel the world. I'm an entrepreneur. I used to have a business in tech, and now I'm setting up something new, like a community for entrepreneurs. So and out of a personal desire, I started bringing entrepreneurs together. That actually started happening in Bali when I wanted to meet some fellow entrepreneurs. And that's slowly developing into a bigger community and into an actual business.
Awesome. And I would love to hear more about it. We will dive into it in a minute. But first, I'm really curious, where are you at the moment?
That answer might be a little boring. I'm currently in Amsterdam.
Okay, I do find that answer actually nice because I know you travel so much. You spend time in Bali, you mentioned. I also know that you spend quite a lot of time in Austin, if I'm not mistaken. Then there's Amsterdam, Ibiza. I'm sure there are other places where you hang out. So you travel a lot, right?
Yeah, for the sake of making connections and finding community, I actually slowed down my travel a little bit. Because if you just are in one place for like 1, 2, 3 weeks, it's a bit, it's more challenging to make connections, but also it always takes effort to make connections, and then you don't have as much time to enjoy the fruits of your effort.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think many digital nomads among us can understand what you mean with that. It's definitely easier to make friends or more meaningful connections if you stay somewhere for a longer period of time. So you're planning to stay a bit longer in Amsterdam then as well?
Yeah, so now I'm in Amsterdam to actually build a community of entrepreneurs that keeps running even when I'm not there.
Cool. That's very cool. So yeah, let's dive into that because the reason I brought you on is that I hear from so many of my listeners, followers, coaches, and it's something I experience myself as well, that it's not always easy finding friends, making meaningful connections, finding or creating a community abroad. And even when you have found them, they move away again. That's also an issue that comes up quite regularly, actually. And I've seen you, I've known you for a couple of years now. We met in Brazil. And I've seen you creating so many communities around the globe focusing on entrepreneurs, but I figured that your lessons learned and your tips could also be really useful for expats. So can you maybe share a little bit more about that desire that you felt to create those communities?
Yeah, absolutely. So originally I started organizing events for digital nomads because I was a digital nomad myself, and I was like, okay, it would be nice to have some regular meetups I can go to, I can look forward to going to every week, hosted in venues I like at days and times that work for me. So, and because no one else was organizing it, it was most efficient to just organize those meetups myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how I basically learned the basics of making new connections and building communities. Before I started organizing my own events, it was actually very difficult for me to make new connections when I went to a new place, because I'm quite introverted. I spend a lot of time alone. Just I really enjoy that as well, but that makes it more difficult to make new connections. And I didn't necessarily have a strategy to make connections, or didn't like going to networking events or things like that. So actively organizing events that I was like, okay, I wish it was there for me to go to. that has actually been a game changer. And like just doing that, with just doing that, I went from having a hard time making new connections at a new place to everything became almost effortless.
Awesome. So you're still an introvert, right? And now you're also going to events with other people. So what has changed for you rather than that they are your events? Why did it become effortless?
I actually have to say there's still effort, but it's a different effort. Like just going to an event to hang out and speak with 20 people and hope that some of them you have like a connection with or something in common, that costs a lot of energy. If you organize the event, there is like, of course, the planning and the promotion and things like that. Actually, those are things you do alone. And in the process, you already make connections. And then at the event itself, as an organizer, you actually have a task. You have something to do. Like you welcome people, you get to know them in like maybe half a minute or so, and then you guide them to the event, maybe introduce them to someone else. So it's very different if you have, for me at least, if I have a task, if I have something to do at an event, rather than if I just have to hang out and enjoy that somehow.
Yeah. Maybe before for our listeners who don't really know what introvertness is really, can you share a little bit about the difference between introverts and extroverts?
Sure, yeah. So there are some different people, different definition, but I think the most popular one and the one I use is, as an introvert, you recharge, you get energy from being alone. So which means that social interactions, they slowly drain your energy, and after like an event or a lot of conversations, you generally need some alone time, or maybe in a small group, to recharge your batteries. And an extrovert gains energy from having social interactions. So they would actually go to an event, and after that event have more energy than they came to that event with.
Yeah. I'm an ambivert myself, so I'm in the middle, and I recognize the need to recharge my batteries alone. But I also really get a lot of energy from hanging out with the right people. And if it's a big group, it drains me quite a lot, actually. So I also really recognize that what you said about when you are the organizer of an event, you can just put some of your energy into the task rather than keeping up with chit chat or, conversing with people. I find it fun sometimes, but also really energy draining. And it's nice to have other things to do. But I'm really curious, as an organizer, are you then still making connections at the event? Is it still meeting your social needs if you are, doing all the organizing tasks?
Sorry. So I do find the events very enjoyable, and I get a lot of energy from other people finding value in the events. So it's really, for many of the people who come to the events, it solves a need, and they go home energized with new connections and things like that. So I gain a different social energy from it than just attending an event or meeting up with like close friends for dinner, for sure. Do I have the same conversations I would have as an attendee? No, because there is too many things to distract. Everyone wants to talk to you. But that's okay, because if, let's say, 25 people come to an event, maybe like 5 of them, it would be relevant, like there would be a true connection, and it would make sense to meet up after that. And being the organizer is the best way to know exactly who those 5 people are.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, really valid. So, we also privately spoke before about building a community and creating meaningful connections. Sorry. It's easier said than done to create a community. So can you maybe share a little bit how you go about, how you find the right people, how you decide what to do? Because it's a hurdle for many people to actually become that leader in a way, to really show up as someone who brings together a group, to take on that responsibility, to be visible as a group leader also. So I'm really curious, how do you do it? And what are
Mm,
your tips for expats who are looking to create meaningful communities abroad themselves as well?
right. Yeah. So the way I see it, there are three basic steps to it. The first one is to really basically take a good look at yourself and see what activities do you enjoy, which people do you want to meet, which places do you feel comfortable at. So you basically make a list of your goals, of your ideal situation you want to be at. Um, this way you can have like more purposeful and specific meetups and events rather than something broad that tries to speak to everyone but attracts no
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So I'll actually give a recent example. A couple of months ago, I was in Austin, Texas, and I wanted to organize some events for entrepreneurs as well. So I started out being very specific, that I wanted to have a more casual dinner with entrepreneurs. I, sorry, I still have a bit of a cold.
No worries. I think we've all got them at the moment.
Yeah. So I wanted the event to be a little bit casual, non-transactional, not going there to hand out business cards or to do sales or things like that. I wanted them to be for entrepreneurs, ideally for entrepreneurs who had a bit of experience already and who were at a point in their business where their revenue wasn't tied to how much time they could sell. Like they had something that scales. And I wanted to be at like a Wednesday evening in a restaurant because I had time at that moment and I just like going to a nice restaurant. So that already made it very specific with what I wanted it to be like.
Mm-hmm.
So
So if we can dive a little bit into this first part. So one thing I hear you say is like, what are my interests, my needs, and I create something around that. So I really like this advice because then you make it fun for yourself as well, right?
yes,
So you think like, okay, what would I like to do? And it's a really different starting point than trying to create something that everyone could like. But it's really about being specific in what you like because you believe that there are more people like you who like this. So you attract the right people, right?
yes,
Yeah, I really like this. It's something I also speak about myself because I always say, don't be vanilla, be that person that people are either attracted to or repelled by. Maybe that's a bit of a strong word, but
yeah,
you
but
don't want
it's
to
true.
be for everyone. You want to be a chocolate favor for chocolate lovers, and the chocolate doesn't go for people who like strawberry, for example.
Yes,
So you could, rather than getting the most people with your vanilla flavor, you actually attract the right people by being a chocolate flavor. Sorry,
yeah,
these are really bad metaphors, but I think you get the picture.
yeah. And imagine like not really liking vanilla, but you think everyone likes vanilla, so you do vanilla, and then no one comes. I
Yeah.
mean, that is extra frustrating, right?
Or people come, but they think like, oh yeah, it's just vanilla. Like, who likes
Yeah,
vanilla ice cream?
yeah,
It's eatable, but it's not fun, in my opinion.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a really good advice, I think. So expats who are looking to build a community, please take this advice, like to create something that you would love to attend as well, and make it specific.
Right.
Yeah,
And yeah, this is like an example related to entrepreneurship, but it can be like any hobby, any sports. Like maybe it's something related to food or drinks or an activity or whatever it is. Yeah, I think it's also well known that in the northern European countries like Norway, Sweden, sometimes people say it's more difficult as a foreigner to come in and make connections.
yeah,
And that is true if you're just trying to make friends, right? Because everyone already has friends, they got their things figured out. But then if you actually have an angle, if you have specificity, you could actually think of an activity or an angle that actually is something new to the people who already live there that's missing. Like maybe
yeah,
they don't have whatever, a chess club. I'm just saying stupid things, but or an ice cream enthusiastic club or whatever. And you're finally able to bring that into their life. And
yeah.
then you can actually have a new way to make connections with people you otherwise wouldn't be able to connect with.
Yeah, I love this. Good that you're saying this because I hear this a lot from people and I experienced it myself as well. Like it's really difficult to find new friends in the Netherlands, some other northern countries. But what you're saying now is to have a different perspective, like saying, no, you can bring something new to their lives, and through that way, you can meet new friends. So it's not a
Hmm.
given that they are close to meeting new people. It's just you need to find a different angle, perhaps.
Yes.
I like this, yeah. And often I think it's not even about like offering that chess club or ice cream enthusiastic club, but it's really maybe a personal experience. Like I had friends here in the Netherlands, and they're still very good friends of mine. But when I quit my job to become an entrepreneur, I felt very lonely because I didn't have any other entrepreneur friends. So
Hmm.
even if Dutch people or other people have their group of friends, their lives change and their interests and their needs change. So there might always be someone who actually needs what you have to bring or what you're looking for as well.
Yes. Yes.
Cool. So, okay, you've got that. So you've got your specific, you know what you want, you create something that you would love to attend. Then how do you go about finding these people?
Yeah. So what I always start with is like with those goals in mind, look at what's already there. So um, again, my example in Austin, like I was like, okay, where do I start? Where do I find these people? Well, they are probably already going to other events, to other activities. So I just looked on Meetup, Eventbrite, whatever. If I find like a half relevant event, I would go there. Ideally, of course, a super relevant event, but of course, like there wasn't something that exactly fitted.
Hmm.
But I would go there, both to check out the event, but also to probably meet some people who might be a good fit for the things I wanted to organize. So that would be a direct result. But I would also ask them, okay, which other events do you go to?
Mm.
Because sometimes it's very difficult to find the right events and activities using Google or Meetup or something, because they might
Yeah,
have some weird or ambiguous name that doesn't like it could be a name that doesn't contain the word entrepreneur, right? It could be some made up name, and then it's really difficult to find.
yeah,
So yeah, I would go to the events that I could find, go there, and then personally ask everyone like, okay, if you're an entrepreneur, which other events do you go to? And then you end up with a whole list of options.
yeah. Okay, that's a great one. Yeah. So, one concern I guess that many people have, even when throwing their birthdays, the birthday parties, is like, okay, what if I throw a party or organize something and no one shows up? How do you deal with that situation?
Hmm. Yeah, good question. I've certainly been in that situation as well. Having that fear, like it never actually happened that no one showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's one of those things where the fear is probably worse than the reality.
Yeah,
Um, because that fear can actually become so big that you never organize anything and like
exactly.
miss out on so many opportunities. And yeah, that like if you make that fear, let that fear go too big, like it can really limit you. Yeah, so I remember my first ever little meetup I organized was at an event called Nomad Cruise, where everyone could put on their notes on a board and organize their own meetup. And there I was like, okay, if I organize something, no one shows up, I'm gonna look stupid and whatever. I don't even know what I was thinking anymore. But of course, if you organize something and no one shows up, that doesn't feel good.
Yeah,
So the only way I could get over it was by just thinking, okay, if I organize this and no one shows up, what's actually going to happen? What's the
yeah,
worst that can happen? And the answer is actually nothing.
yeah. You'll
Is
just
it
be by
just,
yourself for an hour.
yeah, so just get a drink.
Yeah,
Who cares? Like it's easy to overestimate how much people care about every little thing you do, right? But they probably glanced at your in this case on the note for a second, and then they forgot about it.
yeah. So it's nothing personal.
For sure, it's nothing personal.
Yeah.
No. And it's also not something that's going to haunt you for years. Like people
No.
forget like the day after. Like, so the cost of trying to organize something is very close to zero, especially if you're like, okay, worst case, I bring a book or whatever, I get a drink, I enjoy myself anyway, and at least you tried, you've done that. But the potential benefits of organizing something and having a great night and bringing value to people is like tremendously higher than the potential cost.
Yeah. What are some of the rewards that you've got, you yourself or the people that attended your dinners? So what was something that you gained by bringing together so many different entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so it started already with the digital nomads meetups. The very house I'm in now is rented through some people in my network, for example, in Amsterdam. It's a very big house. It's got a parking space below, which is very rare in Amsterdam. So like I get all kinds of like secondary benefits that I never even thought of that were never the goal by having this large network and being someone they trust and I provided some value to. That's the case for like almost every like business deal or like accommodation or inside information, invitations, like everything comes through my network because the best deals often aren't advertised or open to people outside of certain circles, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that's the biggest benefit. You've provided value to you asked for me, right? What was my
Yeah, and
benefit?
also from maybe the people that attended your dinners.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll start with me and then
Yeah.
yeah. So basically just a bunch of opportunities, and it just feels good to have provided opportunities for other people as well. Because from the events, even though I designed them to be a casual meetup or maybe not casual meetup, but a non-transactional, non-salesy, non-super businessy event, where it's like an evening at a restaurant you would love to go anyway, even if you didn't get any business from it. People get business from it. People get clients from it, find employees, even if it's like not through the people they meet, but through second degree connections. Because if you actually have that connection with someone, they are actually very open to helping you out with their network as well.
Yeah.
So for other people, it's actually the same. It's also opportunities and insights, and maybe also being inspired and motivated. If you see other entrepreneurs doing something, to work like 1% harder on your business, because you know they're going to ask you the next time.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm a part of your WhatsApp group that you created for entrepreneurs in Amsterdam, and I'm finally going to attend one of your dinners that I'm super excited about. But already being in that WhatsApp group is super inspiring for me because I'm meeting people that I would otherwise never meet. So I think that's already a benefit that you bring to other people. That's really cool.
Yeah, and that's from just being part of the WhatsApp group. So people haven't actually met you and seen you in person yet. So there's not even that's like 1% of the level of trust.
Exactly.
Once you've actually spent an evening together with other entrepreneurs and you have that personal connection and they know what you do and like your purpose and what you're going for, and they want to see you succeed. Like if you have a question, they're going to help you if they can.
Yeah, that's the value of network and real connections. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you sold your business before, you had a business before, and now you're turning into the community aspect. So I know you're organizing more and more of these exclusive dinners and these events that are really useful for entrepreneurs. Can you share a little bit maybe about like professionally where you're going with the thing that you're doing right now?
Yeah, so this new business is a little bit of a happy accident. I was in Bali. I wanted to meet with other entrepreneurs, and then I organized these events, and they actually became organically very successful and had like a great vibe to them. And then I just realized, because at the time I was still thinking about, okay, I exited this one business, I'm now going to build another business, but I wasn't exactly sure what it was going to be yet.
Mm-hmm.
And here it was actually, okay, I'm doing something I really enjoy. I've been organizing events for years already, and I'm doing this for a target audience that actually I'm solving a problem for them, and they also have some income to spend on them, like some experienced entrepreneurs who are able and willing to pay money if I solve that problem for them.
Yeah.
So that's actually the perfect business.
Yeah,
something
exactly.
Enjoy and that solves a problem for people who have money to have that problem solved. So then I was like, okay, let's try if I can actually make this into a business. And then I replicated this in Austin, which worked. And now I'm actually setting up a more permanent community in Amsterdam.
Yeah, that's going to run even when you're not there, like you mentioned in the
Yes.
beginning.
Yes.
And do you see yourself organizing this in more cities around the world?
Well, first it has to be perfect in Amsterdam. So that's where I will actually have a dinner every month, and I'll improve that dinner, the venue, the experience, etc. So it's basically a near perfect experience for entrepreneurs to have a great evening and to connect with like-minded established entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
The second, like we do 2 events per month. The other one is a masterclass. So for example, the next one is about overcoming fear of public speaking. And it'll actually, I always try to give a little twist on it. So this will be done by a comedian. So we're incorporating a lot of humor, and it's just going to be a fun experience. And then, yeah. So the entrepreneurs, they learn something, but they also get to connect with other entrepreneurs who have a similar interest.
Yeah. And people can become a member, right, of this community. So I'm sure these events are then also a place where they meet old faces again. So it really becomes this like network, not just meeting new people all the time, but also really deepening connections with people you already have.
That's the goal, yeah. So that's why I'm also introducing a membership. So like at the events, there's always a limited number of seats, right? And I want to reserve most seats for members. And then there will be some guest seats as well. So it's both that that trust and that community of people who come together very frequently for a long time, but also like the inspiration and freshness of new people who sometimes join the events as a guest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very nice. Okay. And so if there is an international entrepreneur in Amsterdam who wants to join, like how can they join?
Right. So it doesn't even have to be international. I like the mix of locals as well. It's just that we speak English at the events to include everyone. So like to join an event, and to join an event is the only way to become a member, because we just need to make sure, like for both of us, it's a good fit, obviously.
Yeah.
So to attend an event, okay, ironically, my business is named No More Networking because I wanted to have a community that's non-transactional, that's different, and that's just fun. So if entrepreneurs want to attend one of the events in Amsterdam, it's nomorenetworking.com/events, and all the events are announced there.
Great. Okay. And a few final questions. What is one tip that you have for expats or international entrepreneurs or international whoever is listening to this show, additional to what you already said about creating those events or establishing that community? What is one thing that you would tell them?
Right. Because there's a lot that goes into organizing events, as you know, because I know you also organize events. I think the most important thing is like we already established that you need to start with like your own interests at heart, right? You need to organize something you wanted to attend. But then once you've established that, you should focus on bringing value to the people you invite.
Yeah, I like that. Bring value.
Yeah, so forget about yourself during the event, but just focus on making sure the people who come to your event, they have a great experience. And like even if it's a different experience for you to host the event, you'll get energy back in a different way by just bringing value to other people.
Yeah, I think this is great advice for any type of networking, really. So yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yes.
One question that I ask all my guests on the show that I'm going to ask you as well. What is the #1 hack that you have to make living or traveling abroad easier or more fun or more convenient?
Okay. I feel like I should have prepared this because I'm now going through a list of like 20 things I could say.
You don't need to prepare this, but just pick the one that resonates most at this moment. It doesn't need to be the perfect answer.
I do remember from years ago that I was stressing all the time about like seeing everything, and it was more rushed. And once I started letting go and just travel a bit slower and accept that I couldn't use every opportunity that was available, that actually increased just the quality of my experiences. So yeah, don't try to do everything, but focus on a couple of things and really enjoy those.
Yeah, I like that. It's really good advice. Yeah, thanks. It's actually advice I'm going to tell myself as well, because I have a tendency of just rushing a lot. So yeah, and by slowing down, there's a lot more to experience. So thanks for sharing
it's
that.
human nature, right? Like we crave dopamine and we want to do the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. So it takes a little bit of discipline to do less.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. So you already mentioned where people can find the events in Amsterdam and elsewhere if they're organized, nomornetworking.com/events. But where can they find you if they want to follow you or learn more about you?
Right. So my last name is really difficult to pronounce and understand for international people. So
Yeah.
the easiest way would be to go on Instagram to No More Networking. That account follows one other account, and that's my personal account.
Okay.
It's a bit of a workaround, but if I try to pronounce it here, and
no, it's too difficult to spell it out, but I will put both of them in the show notes so people can find that.
Amazing.
Okay, so Instagram is the place where people can find you and follow you.
Well, yeah, there's a link to a link tree, and there it goes to LinkedIn and like whatever works. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I'll add that. Marcel, thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing your experiences and your tips for organizing events, valuable events, and to creating a really meaningful network wherever you are. I think it's super useful for expats who it's not always easy creating a new social life if you move abroad, especially if you continue to move abroad. And I think your tips are really valuable for people to be a little bit more proactive and show that there are opportunities out there if you just really get out there and organize events that you would love to attend, because you will find your tribe eventually. So really, thank you.
Yeah, that makes me think. I remember I should actually mention one more important thing. Also for me, after all those years of organizing events like in South America, Mexico, Bali, Amsterdam, like a lot of places, if I do the same as a lot of people do, like they go to a new place and they miraculously hope to make the right friends without any strategy or effort, I'm also not making any friends. I'm also very lonely. Right? So I've experienced that many times already. If I don't put in the effort, also, like even after all those years of experience, I'm not going to make those connections. So it's actually very, like almost directly correlated to the effort you put in. Like there's still some strategy, but you need to actually go out there, put the effort in. Yeah,
I totally agree. And, it may feel like a bit of a responsibility or a burden perhaps, but it's also it's possible to look at this from a positive angle. And that is, if you just are proactive and do the work, then you will find your people. So don't despair if you feel lonely and you're just not meeting the right people or you don't create any meaningful connections. It's just about changing your strategy or to have a strategy and to really take meaningful actions that can lead to that community abroad.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, cool. I'm really glad that you added that at the end. So, well, thank you again, Marcel, and I'm sure we will talk again. And for anyone who wants to follow you, Marcel's details are in the show notes.
Yes, and I'll see you very soon at the Entrepreneur Dinner in Amsterdam.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Marcel.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.